past all of them as well. What a move for the 48. Oh, look at this, and onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from the number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.
Worth of racing starts right here with us on RaceSpotTV, and it is the critical time of the season. Mistakes are going under the magnifying glasses. 3 championships that all find themselves bunched up together, and more critically than that, a dyno test of a circuit for 2 races here tonight. Welcome to Montemelo here in Spain. This is the circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. It'll be Jake Sperry and Jeremy Scott bringing you all of the action for today's racing as we get ourselves set for what will be a wonderful battleground of racing action. We find ourselves with just 4 weeks of racing left. Barcelona, Catalunya, Gilles Villeneuve, Sonoma, and then Daytona, which cannot be dropped. They know they've got a week's break in the middle here before the circuit Gilles Villeneuve comes to light. But what you do note now is that in this championship season, Barcelona is proving to be a place where you're now looking at those drop rounds and who will be making the least amount of mistakes between now and the end of this season. It's going to be huge in terms of how they go and sort themselves out and now figure out what they need to be doing in the next phase as they push. Alexander Davidson with control by drop rounds. James Boomey Boomy having to eat into his second drop round, so the gap is 13 at the top. Ross McFarlane then in third, trying to close down that gap with Matthias Pirhanen fourth and Anders Mira there in fifth. It's then Michael Evdoka and Arthur Thurtle who are sixth and seventh, with Harrison Crowther in eighth, Adam Watson ninth, and then Marley Joffe, by element of his non-starts, is down in 10th. In Pro-Am, it is still a very close affair, and it looking like it's turning into a three-way, maybe four-way championship if you include Phil Samways there in fourth. Michael Gray ahead of William Guthrie by 17. Aidan Carter is only 30 points back of that. Tommy Vedal is there in fifth position, with Chris Chatterton and Håkon Ida Lindmo. They're the two Nomad drivers in sixth and seventh. Dickie Simnor and Eric Muxka are there in eighth and ninth, with Tom Griffiths then rounding out your top 10 in category. And then it is a tale of two in the AM between Daniel McCauley and Ben Altria. Altria is winding that gap back in and is proving that he has got a lot to try and pace back, with Jesse Payne-Wilkins, Jacques Eva, Joe Coffin there in fifth position, Ben Bennyworth and Adam Hedgecock. They're sixth and seventh, with Elliot Roberts, Brian Loynes, and then Paul Smith by consistency there, finding himself in the top 10. WSI Esports in control of the pro standings by 500 almost now over Altitude Frame Esports, with Racing Lab Esports in third in a very close battle with Altitude Esports by Sim Stickers. Nomad find themselves fifth, with Atomic Esports x DCW sixth. It's then Effect Simulations, Atomic Esports, and Solpec Precision Racing making up your 9 as they go. Team AM, Full Tilt V Motorsports, have a 40-point lead over Full Tilt Motorsport, with Series 1 Racing in third, just 200 points behind Full Tilt. Altitude Frame, Mr. Hedge in fourth, with Boosted Motorsport, Project 91 Academy, and then Effect Simulations Club Sport. Qualifying has just concluded, so the grid is now able to stack, and James Boomy has won pole position by a tenth and a half over Alexander Davidson, with Dennis Grabowski in third and Michael Evdoka in fourth. Ross McFarlane will go from fifth, and critically, it's a sixth place start for the Pro-Am William Guthrie, as Ben Altria will go from seventh and Tommy Vedal in eighth. What a qualifying by Altria there. The AM is seventh. Harrison Crowther is ninth, with Adam Watson in 10th. That leaves Jack Osborne 11th, and Anders Mira there in 12th position. Aidan Carter will be looking to try and make progress. He's 13th, with Daniel McCauley alongside the AM Championship leader Tom Griffiths and Jesse Payne-Wilkins on row 8, with Arthur Thurtle and Adam Tompkins, two Altitude Sim Stickers cars there on row 9. Dickie Simnor and Joe Coffin make up your top 20, with Taylor Lane and Phil Samways on row 11. Drew Fletcher and Brian Loynes are 23rd and 24th. 35-car field here today, so Benjamin Gregory has Howard Hassan for company, as Ben Bennyworth and Adam Hedgecock house row 14. Paul Smith goes from 29th, with John Roberts there for Boosted Motorsports in 30th. Matthias Pirhanen then was the last driver to set a time, with Colin Sansom, Chris Chatterton, Håkon Ida Lindmo, and Jacques Eva down at the back of this field. Jeremy, this is going to be a very quick 30 minutes to start.
It really is. And of course, also, well, the big talk of the day were the sausage curbs, where they'd launch you right into space. So hopefully during practice, these drivers have been able to avoid them. No surprise here. Your front row of Boomy and Davidson. Also, look at how beautiful the temperatures are. I'm set to go racing.
Yeah, I'm set as well, and they know that it's your top two in the championship, as it has been traditionally, who are going to make this push. It's a long launch all the way over to turn number 1 out there on track. That is going to be critical, and look at that, immediately trying to get a clearance, and almost turned over Evdoka is Dennis Grabowski. He was trying to get a jump on Alexander Davidson, who immediately moved over to the inside to try and cover it. They could have had a massive incident heading into turn number 1 here. Grabowski in the Aston Martin works around the outside trying to get this move done. They power into turn 2, and now at Renault turn 3, it's covered by Alexander Davidson. Boomy's got the launch he needed. That was clearly a coordinated style start.
And that was absolutely fantastic by Grabowski to pounce and strike while the iron's hot. Around Repsol, your top 6 into single file formation. 3 wide near the back. They're already getting diced here in the short 30-minute snippet. So far, so good.
Yeah, it's a great start here in this race, and we're seeing moves being made in the middle of the pack. Starting to go Altria, having to scrap with Tommy Vettel, and here comes Jack Osborne powering over to the inside with 2 tyres in the grass, trying to get this done 3 wide up there into turn 7 and 8, and looking to climb the hill. Tommy Vettel there with his teammate Anders Mira trying to go through and gain that place. And I did find out yesterday that it was Mira, not Myra, as we've been saying all season long. A little look on board with a great start for Aiden Carter. He'll be looking around to get by Dan McCauley, his teammate Tom Griffiths just behind him. Outside line at Lakaisa, turn number 10, and looking to climb over into Bank Sabadell at turn 11. McCauley's got the lunge.
Well, that just gives another great passing area right there into turn 10, side by side for position here. We're already getting racy, but I'll tell you this, Boomy's loving this as he makes a good jump all the way for lap number 1, but a lot of the altitude esports drivers looking good. Hey, Paul looking pretty good out there as he's already up to 29th and making hay around the backside, front straightaway as he's looking to improve over some rough races.
Yeah, that's Howard Hassan in front as the 2 Nomad cars go side by side. Look at Paul there, look here, there, and everywhere out there at the moment. He's really got the concentration out there at the moment as he works himself through the opening couple of corners here and over to Renault turn 3. Repsol follows that at turn 4. And when you've got those Nomad McLarens trying to follow you, it's about having the confidence to say, this is what you've got. There's Håkon Eidelinmo trying to get through. Now, Paul has been struggling a bit with tyre temperature in the left rear.
Yeah, that tire temperature has been the story of the day for that BMW. Really, the story of the season where drivers just especially have problems getting there. Smith looks to the inside there. Not going to make anything happen, but still. Oh, we got a spinner.
Yeah, that's not going to help at all. And it's Tom Griffiths pointing the wrong way and a heavy hit. And you see it there as Paul goes flying on by. There, just how quickly it goes wrong. And all drivers drop back. It's Dicky Simnor who's also been caught in that. And that will be a big hit for their points today in a very quick half an hour. Here's another look. Oh, they were trying to give each other no room out there.
It's 30 minutes. You really have to get out there, get as much position as you can, but really you're not going to do it by shoving one of your competitors out there into the gravel. And yeah, that was just a, yeah, you hit me, so I'm just going to come back and smack right back into you.
Yeah, and if you're going to have that sort of mentality, the steward's going to take a very dim view of that, and there is a very hefty penalty system for any form of intentional wrecking out there, so you cannot get yourself caught up in anything like that. Oh, and Howard Hassan is going to go spearing off at New Holland there. Contact with, by the looks of it, Adam Hedgecock, I believe it was. He was trying to navigate a way around. So that's how quickly it can all go wrong. And look at the damage there for that full tilt car that's trying to work itself through in the late pack of this field. You cannot be dealing with damage around this place because we talk about it, it's a dyno test, which means it tests every aspect of the car, especially grip. If you have any piece of damage, grip's gone around here.
Yeah, grip is gone exactly because there are a lot of fast, high-speed corners with long straightaways that really test your might. You did see how racy Paul tried to get it around Chatterton, as now he's going to look to the outside. And, oh, a little bit of rubbing there, as you see from Jock's Eva's point of view. And, yeah, everybody just slicing the dice and trying to find a way around. Eva's going to try and look around the inside of Smith. He's going to get the position for the time being, but Smith gets heavier on the brakes, goes high, wide, and handsome around TV3.
Yeah, that's Firth corner, turn 7, as it's known in a Kamsa. There's the cut across from Eva, and Paul Smith has to move it back. You can see there the yellow and black X sticker on the back, which indicates rookie out there in terms of British working then for the UK motorsport scene. So if you saw that on the Top Gear car when it ran in Silverstone 24 hours, you get an understanding. James Boomy with a slowdown penalty is now going to see Alexander Davidson into the race lead.
Wow, so interesting to see where Boomy copped the penalty, but still, he's close enough to strike. But here's the thing: you get Davidson out in front, and he's already opened up an 0.8 of a second gap over Davidson, as one of the cars that was in the pits is back out. Not sure if it's Griffiths or Simnor, but I think it's going to be Simnor's. That was the one who's tailing Charlie, but still, Boomy now closing in just a little bit. But you don't want to let Davidson get too far away, because if he does, it's going to be race win over, I should say.
Yeah, it was Europe car corner. He's too aggressive on the inside. 8-10's now the gap, and Alexander Davidson doesn't need that an opportunity then, as he is the championship leader and he wants to jump up and gain even more. Both having to use their drop round last time out, so effectively parity restored in championship trim as we look over to the likes then of Ben Altria, who is, William Guthrie even in second, leader in Pro-Am. Both Full Tilt V Motorsport cars lead their class. Guthrie in Pro-Am, Altria in Am, and Guthrie with a good gap of 4 cars to 10th where Jack Osborne is, and it's a 4-car gap for Altria as well. Back to Dan McCauley. That's what you call a perfect day at the Full Tilt V Motorsport office.
It really is, and of course there were calls for Guthrie to be promoted. I think that might happen next season because look at how good he is amongst all the pros, with McFarlane ahead of him, Crowther behind him. You're looking actually, so there's just a lot of great things happening for this Pro-Am driver. Of course, you got Jack Osborne, Ben Altria, the other 2 non-pro drivers sitting there in the top 10 in this short race. So really, this is great to see that their pace has really picked up.
It has, and this is what you see from a series. It's about development of these drivers. You come into it, say, as an Am, and then you learn what the tips of the trade are. You get to Pro-Am, and you get even quicker and realise these are what the quick drivers are doing. You move up to Pro. So it is a process, and I do love the process that is put in. It's getting busy here around Docker and McFarlane because you've got Guthrie there, you've got Harrison Crowther sitting there in 7th place, and then trying to hold on Adam Watson and Ben Altria. Behind him, Osborne, Anders Mira down the order, Tommy Vettel there in what is 11th place, and then Dan McCauley and Aiden Carter. So it goes all the way back to 14th here from what is P4 out there, and they are desperately trying to get to Dennis Grabowski because that will mean podium scrap out here as they're almost a third of the way through this race.
And once Grabowski gets caught, it's definitely going to be a podium battle right there as everybody single file, but Grabowski's still trying to hold that gap back to Abdaka and McFarlane, but still you've got 2 WSR Mustangs, nose to tail. Say this, it's going to make things just a little bit harder once Grabowski is caught here, but of course he also wants to catch up to his teammate James Boomey to make sure that he can catch up to Davidson, our leader. Of course, Davidson really has not moved up too much. Also, as we see a battle for looks like 18th or 19th.
Matthias Pirhinen, remember, had the slowest time in qualifying. He's up 11 spots, and he's looking for a way by Taylor Lane out there in the Nomad car at the moment. Ride the curb aggressively through New Holland in that short shoot. Sorry, to New Holland out in Europe car, now into it, and along this main front stretch, trying to get this past with Joe Coffin in front. You might see Adam Tompkins looking to make a move on Jesse Payne Wilkins in front. There's the look to the inside. Pirhinen leaving it late is better on the brakes down the inside. Oh, thank you very much. That's about as easy as a pass can get.
Yeah, that was a very nice kind pass course. Still a little bit early in the race. You haven't even reached halfway yet. You don't want to get too aggressive. I'd say within the 10-minute mark, that's where we're going to start to see that aggression really poke up. Also watching the battle for 29th heat up between Adam Hedgecock and Howard Hassan. But still, you see Pirhinen, who, like we said, ran the slowest lap time, which is very odd for him, but nonetheless able to work his way up through the field. Of course, you also got to stop and think about the invert that we will have after this race. We'll see where we're going to flip, and I bet you that's what Pirhinen's thinking as well. Try and get to somewhere you can get a good invert.
And here's the thing as well, Pirhinen in a brand new car was running Porsches. He's now converted to the Mustang.
Yeah, you get one free conversion, and a lot of drivers are taking really hay over the past couple of weeks. Pirhinen, one of those drivers who is using the Mustang, which we have seen become the front runner, but the sleeper, as we are watching Grabowski also, he's using an Aston, which we're starting to see more and more of those in the field.
We certainly are, and there have been some changes. Jack Osborne, for example, has dropped a place now to Anders Mira, who has gone through and gained a place. So you get a real sense of where drivers have found the ability to work on through over the course of this progression. And I have to go back and look at the front because that gap is now just crept up over a second now as they've gone. Docker is holding Ross McFarlane at bay, and McFarlane down in fifth has sort of been that third wheel. He's been a very consistent third to Davidson and Boomy. Today, he's definitely met his match here. I don't think this is his style of track.
Well, also take a look at how close is to McFarlane. Here's a replay. Paul Smith hard into the wall. Not what you want to see with that BMW. I know that he's been talking about some handling problems with that car, but just head on into the wall. But back to what I was mentioning too, it's rare that you see McFarlane having to deal with a Pro-Am car. And I think in the next couple of laps, we might see Guthrie try and make some sort of assault to get into that top 5 overall.
Well, they got to play ball. They are teammates after all. And there is the Multi-21, which is out there, or effectively, they'll call it the Multi-127 out there, as that is a case of the 989 falling back behind Ross McFarlane. I'm going for a championship. You're not. Get behind me and defend.
Yeah, make sure you make yourself as wide as you can, and don't let that Guthrie or Crowther behind you pass through.
Absolutely not. Do not let anybody behind disrupt what I'm trying to do. I think I can catch Grabowski and gain that third place. 1.6 seconds then to chase down a bit better this lap from James Boomy. He has kept that gap now down to under a second then. So he's had a bit of a tough time of it, but that time took half a tenth of a second. William Guthrie now will be seeing that Michael F. Docker's job is to get as wide as possible out there at the moment. So Guthrie knows that he can pick up points, but he's not going to be quote-unquote picking up points against Michael F. Docker. He will be just extending his points gap against the likes then of Jack Osborne, who's fallen back down to 11th place. He wants as wide a margin as possible. They all score from the same hymn sheet.
And we all saw we've seen over the past couple of weeks that strange things can happen. So why not get out there and pad your points lead the best that you can? So if something does happen when the drop does occur, you're not hurt that much. That's the key here in these race series where you do have the drops, which some say are great, some others not so much. Boy, that's a train full of Mustangs right there as you see the Aston of Grabowski. Only about 2 seconds and a half ahead of this McFarlane train. But 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, all nose to tail, line astern. Nobody making a move just yet, just before halfway. I think everybody's trying to feel out their equipment so they can see what they have for the final 10 minutes.
Yeah, and you really are seeing these gaps starting to form as Tommy Vettel looking like he wants to try and get through on Jack Osborne there from Atomic. So you are getting a sense of they're falling into their own little pace brackets. And this is the sort of circuit that for the distance that it has here, Jeremy, it's a track that does bring major differences in terms of pace.
Well, it's something you and I have talked about when we've called races here. There's a reason why F1 tests here. There's a reason why almost every international series race here is because it is an absolute test of might. Vettel almost closes in there on Osborne. Of course, Vettel's got to be careful because Dan McCauley, in spite of being in the AMP group, still right there under the rear wing of Vettel. So that's gonna be something. But as we were saying, a lot of teams and a lot of series love to come here because it's such a challenging race course.
Yeah, this is a really challenging track at the best of times. It's a very known quantity as well, which means that people do have a tendency to underestimate it, as that was close by Tommy. And the more that you find yourself trying to attack Jack Osborne, the more likely Dan McCauley's going to get in. Toughest job for a driver to attack and defend at the same time. You're caught in Schrodinger's overtake.
Yeah, and of course, we all know how good McCauley's come in the past couple of weeks. So, yeah, Vettel's really got to watch out to see if McCauley is going to make a move. You don't want to leave that door open at the wrong opportunity. And Osborne may or may not know who is behind Vettel, but still, he also wants to try and make sure that Vettel does not go up because he wants to catch up to Osborne and go up one more in that Pro-Am category.
Yeah, and then you've got Aiden Carter trying to join this group, and he needs every place he can get his hands on. He knows how tough of a day that he will be finding if it doesn't go the way he wants to. But McCauley here trying to work out and say, this is what I've got. 15 minutes then, so we're at halfway here in this one. Pick up the run along this long front stretch. It slightly climbs up to the brow in the middle of the straight, and then it's downhill all the way to turn number 1. So you get over the crest. Now Now you hit the brakes and you try and hope that you don't sail on into turn 2 and overcook the chicane. It's subtle here in certain areas of the circuit where you get the elevation change, and in other places it hits you like a brick wall. Macaulay then making that progress, looking for run here to make this happen, and coming out of Repsol corner, trying to open it up, outside line, searching at Sayat, and still can't quite find a way to get through. Tommy's got the answers then. In front, he holds the middle of the line, and he is doing everything that he needs to at the moment.
On a good day, those Mustangs are wide, and I've got to say, Tommy is making that even wider, not only because he wants to get around, but he wants to go up one spot. But yeah, Aiden Carter really coming up in the Soul Lamborghini right now in 14th place. So that's going to be interesting. It's been neat to see what Carter's been able to do in Pro-Am, being the only not prancing horse, but being the only Lamborghini out there.
Well, there was a time where Lamborghini wanted to be bought out by Ferrari, and Ferrari laughed at them for being a tractor company. So in that sense, it's a case of one rampaging bull out there at the moment compared to everyone else, as this group continues to keep itself in close stead at this moment in time, and no real change being found then in various elements. This is buying a ticket time out there because you're trying to make sure that you've got the place to go and make these moves happen. On the brakes we go. We take a look as that again is going to be close enough. Black flag for Drew Fletcher. Now that is quick.
Yeah, they get 17X with 12 minutes left to go. You have to be hitting a lot of 4Xs to do that. So, not boding well for the race later on this evening. But nonetheless, we're seeing Macaulay trying to close in on Vettel for 12th place, and Paul Smith letting everybody go around.
Well, we'll take a look here. Oh, up and over. He almost hit 88 miles an hour and found himself going back 20 years.
Yep, that's what we're talking about. You definitely don't want to hit those curbs, especially coming off a turn at number 13, because that's been the point of contention where drivers, they'll get just a little wide coming off of there to try and get some speed, and yep, it just launches you each and every time.
It's very tough. Ben Altria now having to defend. Anders Mira's there, and his teammate looks to go for it on Jack Osborne. It pushes them wide. They're going to be 3 wide up. Bang Sabadell hit an next right-hander. Wrong side of the road for Macaulay, and a push through the middle of the corner. Tommy's going to go spinning around. Macaulay's going to get the run off the exit. He's going to get them both out there. So it's going to be tough for Tommy, who drops himself down the order. Dan Macaulay's got them both.
And now he's got to get around Mira to get to Ben Altria, who is his class leader. But when we see I'm interested to see the replay to see how that played out, whether it was a spin for himself or if that was a little bit of a help. As we see once again, here comes Osborne to defend to get that place back. He's not going to be able to do it as Macaulay shuts the door on him on turn 1. Now through turn 2 opens up a little bit of a gap, but still plenty of time. Let's see what happens through Repsol.
Well, this is key for Dan Macaulay. We'll take another look at this here because Osborne's there on the inside, and you're naturally going to understeer out through the middle of the corner. I think Tommy's unlucky there. He did everything he needed to out there. Tommy fast, finding the wrong way out there, and Dan Macaulay, just ever the opportunistic driver, does well, picks up that place, and critically, it's now one car between him and Ben Ultra, and he'll be screaming at Anders Mira to try and get this move, but both of those drivers are catching Adam Watson. Over the crest goes Mira, and now he'll be looking for a run out of Kamsa to Lekaitsa. Turn number 10 out there on track, and there goes the lunge down to the inside. Scouted from a mile back, trying to get the run through the middle of the corner. No love found for Ben Altria as through goes Anders Mira, and that puts him up into 9th.
And Mira able to take that BMW around in spite of wiggling through Lekaitsa and gets into that 9th position. So now there's nothing but air and space between Altria and Macaulay for not only the top 10, but the lead in AMs.
And the lead gap coming down in overall because that gap just crept down under 3/4 of a second. Alexander Davidson is being put under the cosh as we watch Ben Altria here in 10th, your AM category leader. Now directly behind him is Dan McCauley, and that's been the story of the championship. Anytime Altria has been ahead out there, McCauley's found a way to get closer and closer to him, and now this is a case of hold on to the slipstream for Ben, with Mira and Watson now looking like they're going to try and put a show into turn 4 at Repsol here. Tough hairpin right.
Yeah, plenty of time, plenty of space for this battle to really develop here, with Altria trying to get into the lead of AMS. Hold the lead of AMS, I should say, as he's got Mira right ahead of him, trying to get around and make sure that there's that nice little buffer so Mira can be the meat in the AMS sandwich right there. But Watson also might be under attack here, I would say, within the next couple of laps by either Mira, Altria, or both.
Well, porque no los dos. We are here in Spain, and this could be a case of why not both? Yes, sí, los dos are going to try and give what they can, and this is what you have. You can have a quick pace for the opening 10-15 minutes, but you come to here and the long parabolic style corners here, there aren't really sharp corners out there, with the exception of maybe one of them out there being Saya. Outside of that, these are corners designed to break tires, so this is going to be one where you need a car that is going to work underneath you, that is going to, I would say, be nice to the tires out there. Maybe that low profile isn't being nice to the tires of the McLaren.
No, it most likely is not, but again, this is one of the first races. A lot of these drivers are taking the sprint races in earnest, because we saw a lot of changes in the endurance round last time out. Jocks Eva closing in on Ben Pennyworth for that 24th spot overall, and it's also a class 4, it's an in-class position as well, as Eva tries to close in on that Porsche. Look at that draft that he has going into turn 1. When is he going to pop out, or is he going to bump? No, he's going to pop out right there into turn number 1, get the good advantage, but let's see if Pennyworth has anything for him. No, he decides that discretion is the better part of valor and tucks back in line.
Doesn't look good behind Chris Chatterton. He's missing nose out there as Howard Hassan in a scrap as well, with what looks to me like Phil Samway and Hedgecock even. So he's through on Hedgecock. Samway's trying to chase down. Tough day in the office for Phil Samways and what he's had to be navigating through. But Howard holding himself steady there, and Adam not quite close enough then on that last lap to go and make something happen. So this is going to be difficult for them. Here's a little look on board with Adam as he figures, what can I do with 6.5 minutes to go?
Well, running a 1/10 of a second slower than Hassan. That's not going to do the job, but still plenty of area to make up. But Hassan just seems to have a target locked on trying to see if he can catch up to Roberts, about 1.2 seconds ahead. It's possible, but still, 6 minutes left in the race. Anything can happen. There's your leader, Davidson. Boomy still within striking distance here with just a couple of laps left, but I think that slowdown penalty may have hurt Boomy from having a grandstand finish here in this first race of the evening. But Mustang on Mustang, these two have been the class of the field all season long, so no surprise to see them out there with about a 4-second lead over third place. There's the onboard with Boomy.
First time we've seen that this season. The window slightly open to keep him cool out there as he works through a very claustrophobic space for him to work with out there at the moment. But some drivers like that feel like they're in a cockpit, and that's what he's dealing with at the moment. Really trying to attack through the corners, looking over, and you can sort of see there on his face there, the face of concentration. He knows that Alexander Davidson's got all the answers to the pop quiz here. This is going to be tough for him to try and claw it back. It's stuck at 0.75 of a second, and he is willing that car into every corner, trying to get it to work, and the steering wheel there really fighting him back in a couple of places.
And Boomy's not one of those drivers who will make a move on a wing and a prayer, especially with just a couple of laps left, and still don't know where he's going to start for this second race, with the invert coming just after everybody finishes. So I would imagine he's either going to stay where he's at, or it looks like he may have found Davidson's number, because look at how much closer he is this time by after coming off of the final corner.
Well, they've been in very consistently, these 39.8 to the 40 flat. It just so happens that Alexander Davidson hits a 40 flat and James Boomy gets a 39.8 down on the board, fills it in within half a second out there. Dennis Grabowski has got Ross McFarlane within 0.8 of a second. Guthrie and Evdoka continuing to stay close. And so every time you're looking around and saying, well, who's going to be making what move? Everybody of the top 6 within a second of the battle that they need to be in are now trying to gear it up through the small kink left of 6, now to third corner turn 7, and you're trying to take this jump through this corner and attack off the exit as much as you can. And James Boomy takes a shallower line over the anti-cut curb, whereas Alexander Davidson pure avoids it.
Sector 129.1 for Davidson, 29.0 for Boomy. So something has been ignited in that fire that is James Boomy. Look at how much tighter he is around turn 10. Now sets up for turn 11 compared to Davidson. Could that be the answer? 39.4, 39.3. Literally, I'm looking at these sector times. 39.433 for Davidson, 39.333 for Boomy. So exactly a tenth of a second faster.
Well, you're getting a look at what makes these drivers tick here. These top 2 know they're going to be trading for this victory all season long. They will have 3 more weeks of racing after this, but they've got a big feature to try and get it sorted here in this technical. Right now, Davidson will know the lap times that he's doing at 140s. He'll have about 2 laps to go to try and hold on. But James Boomy, I think, has been playing quite coy in this race. I think he's been sat there at 7/8 of a second, holding the tyres in a range so he doesn't get too close, he doesn't burn them out, so he's got something to race with right down at the end.
Yeah, save the equipment, save the tires. That way you can make a charge at the end. Now 0.3 of a second separate Davidson from Boomy. They're basically in lockstep with one another as they're making their way around turn 5, now setting up for turn number 6. Davidson, Boomy, the only difference has been a slowdown penalty for Boomy after he took a shortcut off of Europe car in 13. So with 2 minutes, 17 seconds left, it's still anybody's race for the lead.
And quickly, Jeremy, Am now down to half a second.
Yeah, no surprise there as Altria really has to watch his mirrors as he's watching straight ahead, because Macaulay, we know how good he's been as of late. He's really reeling in that Am leader.
Yep, so that's another one to deal with. Anders Mira, another trying to get through and out of front of that. And so everywhere you look, it is Battleground City here in Montebello in Spain. It's all now about what Alexander Davidson can do with one final lap, because Barney is about to weigh, and James Boomy knows the best place to pass is turn 1 here on track. If he's not close enough, and at 0.3 of a second he's not, he's going to have to wait for Lekaitzer at turn 10 as his best place to go and get this move. He follows into line. He's a little late into the apex though, overcooks the brakes by about 5 to 10 meters, and that's enough for Alexander Davidson to pull that gap back again to half a second, and he realizes it as he wrestles with the steering wheel. A little nod of resignation to know that Alexander Davidson has got gap again out there at the moment. Altria has covered his line in the AM battle with Dan McCauley at least, and knows that with Mira and Watson in front, that slipstream is going to be helpful. Down into Sayat corner here at turn 5 and trying to chase off the exit. Alexander Davidson on rails, and the wiggle there from Boomy having to fight the steering as he comes off the exit there off the curb. He knows that he's losing that ground, he knows he's losing that time, and he knows that this gap is falling away. Ross McFarlane wants a podium behind that, and he might have a run up at Kamsa corner behind them to try and get this move. Oh, it was close between him and Grabowski. Now can the grunt then of the Mustang get by the Aston Martin here on the final lap? Has he given himself any room to chuck it up the inside? And they both overcooked it deep. Oh my goodness, they both overcooked it. Just enough though for Grabowski to hold, and there's only 2 corners left for Alexander Davidson to keep himself in check, to keep himself in tow, to know it's advantage for him here in his first race of 2. That is consummate from Davidson. James Boomy did everything he could. One slowdown changes the day.
You know, I noticed as we were coming to that first turn on the final lap, Boomy had that look of resignation there as Guthrie comes across the line. Gonna take the Pro-Am lead, but I'm interested also in the Am lead. I'll make my point here in a second.
Oh, McCauley's out of fuel.
Ultria.
Dan McCauley runs out of fuel coming over the line. He confirms it for Ben Ultra. McCauley needed about, I would say, a litre more, and he would have been there fighting right in the final corner.
Talk about misjudgment there, and at least it wasn't one of those ones where you had to pit, but still, nonetheless, McCauley so close yet so far away from the win. But back to my point, I noticed going into turn one on the final lap, Boomy had that look of, I don't know if I could do this. He just had that grimace on his face, and then he ended up braking just a little bit later. I think that was game over right there. Just that uncertainty going into that first corner.
There isn't much that you can say except it's a tough old day out there at the moment. So I think you can only sit down and say this is going to be a nightmare scenario for many. But you got the reverse grid coming into play. Now, it could be as low as 15. It could be full. It looks like 19 is going to be the number that hits. So that is going to put Taylor Lane on pole position. Alexander Davidson with the win, 6/10 over James Boomy. Dennis Grabowski and Ross McFarlane are third and fourth, with Michael Evdoka rounding out the top five. William Guthrie, your winner in Pro-Am, is in sixth position. It's a long way back for the next one of those as Harrison Crowther up 7, 8, and 9. Ben Ultria rounding out your top 10, winning the Am category just ahead of Daniel McCauley. They're in 11th, just a handful of seconds there, just 20 off the pace, as Jack Osborne and Aidan Carter are 12th and 13th and round the Pro-Am podium. Arthur Turtle and Adam Tompkins are 14th and 15th, with Jesse Payne-Wilkins P16. Matthias Pirhanen's drive up the order will be enough for a second row start in the next race coming up. So 14 places gained. Great job by Matthias. Tommy Vettel will be on the front row, and Taylor Lane will have the pole position for race number 2 tonight as Joe Coffin rounds out the top 20. Hawkenide Linmo would be 21st ahead of Benjamin Gregory. Then it's Brian Loynes and Jacques Eva with Ben Bennyworth and Chris Chatterton. Howard Hassan is 27th ahead of the gentleman John Roberts, with Adam Hedgecock and Phil Samways making up 30. 33 on the leading lap, with Tom Griffiths, Paul Smith, despite the hit into the barriers, and Colin Sansom. 4 laps down is Drew Fletcher with the black flag, and then Dickie Simnor, the only other retiree, then with 15 laps worth of work putting it in. So I would say, Jeremy, in terms of a day at the office, it's smile time for many who look to try and say, this is what I want to be gaining in terms of my points, my placement, and getting what I need. But once again, it is a relatively midfield reverse that comes in for this race, which for those at the front, they're lapping that up because that means best opportunity possible to jump up and try and get a double done.
And that's why we talked about Matthias Pirhanen making the run that he did, because he was able to now sit in row 2 for the start of this next race. So hats off to him, and that's going to be interesting to see what happens at the start.
Yeah, it absolutely will. So we will see that as they go. But now the next question will be, okay, next phase. You've got great racing that's come into play. You've got to add the pit stop in. You're going to double the time out there in terms of it. But I'm looking at drivers around who maybe had great chances in the race that couldn't quite capitalise. I look at Matthias Pirhanen. He's got himself an amazing shot today. But Tommy Vettel has a really good chance of saying these are big points that are going to come up.
Yeah, Tommy Vettel's looking pretty good there. Aiden Carter, I would say. Heck, even Adam Tompkins might even get a top 5 here, depending on how things play out. Of course, pit strategy, that's going to have a lot. We know how good your top 3 are at pit strategy, but also Pirhanen is a teammate to Boomy, so that's something else to watch out for there if he decides to fall in the sword or if he decides he's going to get his own win.
Well, if you're going to try and find out, it's going to be key. And very quickly here, Jeremy, just looking around, those who maybe didn't have the day that they wanted to in terms of that race, there aren't many, but to try and recover from the back of the field in a long race, sometimes a little bit easier.
It really is, because you have more opportunity. You don't have that sense of urgency to get up to the front. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if somebody dies early, if they're going to strengthen out that stint to make sure that they are at the front and kind of do the overcut.
Well, the next challenge is going to be this feature that comes into play. A full hour is going to be put on the clock in your World GT Championship. Round 16 is just on the other side of this, so stay with us here on RaceSpotTV because more great racing is just on the horizon.
Past all of them as well. What a move for the 48. Oh, look at this. And onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from the number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the World GT Championship here in the crunch time of the season at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. Jake Sperry and Jeremy Scott bring you through all of the coverage. We're at the end of a sprint with a feature now on the horizon, and when distance is doubled, you now have to try and prove that you can hold yourself steady. Now, the interesting picture, I think, in this championship now is Pro-Am right now, Jeremy, because no Michael Gray by the looks of things in the 273. So William Guthrie taking full advantage over Aiden Carter, 30 points the difference, so Gray will have to dip into those drop rounds here today. But Aiden Carter is walking in to see William Guthrie on pro pace, and that really drops that's a sinking feeling for a driver.
we got to stop and figure too, this is Carter's first season in Pro-Am. So for as well as they're doing is fantastic, but it's not. It seems like it's not good enough. You've got to have that pro pace. Now, I would expect them to have that pro pace maybe in the last couple of rounds, but again, they're running the only Lamborghini in the field, so it's hard to kind of gauge where everybody else is as cars are set on the course for practice. But you know, 6 in one, half dozen the other. It's great to see Carter pick up the pace, but at the same time, it's tough when you don't know if you're doing the right things when you're the only one running that sort of brand.
Yeah, you don't have a frame of reference to go against, and that makes it difficult because in the world of this where there isn't really that much of a balance of performances being put in, only the iRacing bot really that's putting it into perspective, it does make it doubly difficult to say, look, this is what we're trying to get out, this is where we need to be finding the level that's necessary, and it makes that life tougher. Speaking of tough, Ben Altria, he didn't really do anything wrong in that first race. He had himself drivers who were quicker than him overall on race pace go by him, and then all of a sudden there's the haunted ghost of Dan McCauley who's deciding, right, I'm going to be your biggest nightmare this season because every time you're going to go out there and beat me, you're only going to beat me by one position.
And of course, McCauley's crux this time was just less than a liter of fuel that really could have saved him from getting up there and battling for that win in class. So it's going to be interesting to see how this hour race plays out, especially in that Pro-Am class and the Am class. And I'm curious to see if McCauley fills to what he can. Because remember, in this series, they're set to a limit within the fuel cell to how much they can. So they're basically forced to pit.
Yeah, so if they're only forced to pit and they're only in a position where they sit down and can only get to where they need to, they know they've got about 15 minutes is the earliest you can go in, and the final element of where you can go in is 45. So you've got a wide window to work with, but drivers will look around at this and go, okay, we're going to put all the fuel we can in the tank, run 45 minutes. If we run into an issue early on in the race, that's no worry. We come in at 15 and we try and recover it.
Yep, still, there's still plenty of time within these races to really change your strategy if you're not seeing what's going on early on. But take a look at the fantastic conditions we have here. Temperatures in the low to mid 20s, whether you're looking at ambient or track temperature. Low to mid 70s if you are looking at Fahrenheit, and 55% humidity with the wind only 8 kilometers an hour. It's a picture-perfect day here in Catalunya.
So, with a picture-perfect skyline out there for picture-perfect racing that is bringing things together, and so this is going to be a really strong case of can you jump up to that level and gain those places that you need to. On that reverse, you are sitting down on what is a very nice battleground, and I look around and think, okay, if it didn't quite, if you're just on the wrong side, you bubbled, it becomes a really tough race. If you're P20, 21, 22, as we focus on Aiden Carter for the moment, if you're those positions, 20, 21, 22, you're on the wrong side of the wheel, it makes your life so tough because you know the quick drives are going to run through. You're almost in that opening lap trying to do everything to hold the coattail because you know there's going to be casualties in front.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You want to make sure that you're able to capitalize on those casualties, and you want to make sure that those are less on your end, but when they're there to say the least. Let's hope we don't have a mayhem start like we could have had in race number 1, because that could have been really bad, really fast.
It definitely could have done. So that is going to be, really difficult for drivers. And now I look around this circuit here and I think about, okay, what are they dealing with temperature-wise? What are they dealing with conditions-wise? It's a 26-degree track temperature today. That is cold for a circuit right now, which is in sim time at just gone 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's perfect. These are perfect conditions to get quick racing going, but it does mean those early laps are going to be nightmarish, especially after the pit stop.
Yeah, there's going to be some drivers who are going to be on literal rocks for the first couple of laps, so that's going to be interesting. Kyle's had a heart attack. I haven't seen that camera review as of yet. I thought we were going to see a Lamborghini go off and basically tub it, but it's going to be interesting to see the first couple laps. Like I said, these drivers are going to be driving around on rocks. First couple laps of the race, first couple laps coming out of the pit. So, but thankfully, there's plenty of wide open spaces here with it being an FIA Grade 1 circuit. So maybe the contacts will be limited as Watson gets a black flag here in practice. In practice, of all places.
Well, if there was any place to get it, it would be in practice, and that will be for not serving a slowdown penalty, I would have thought, because there's areas where you're going through. Now, I looked at the end of that race, and I saw that not one single driver was able to get through that race of half an hour in length, Jeremy, without picking up an off-track incident point. The lowest was 2 by Alexander Davidson. If he's picking up 2, I would be very concerned for what everyone's picking up in an hour.
Exactly, and of course, you know, it's very easy to go off, especially if you notice, like on the X, because this track is so flowy in certain spots. So I would imagine if we saw that 17X be hit so early in race 1, we might see it before halfway for some of the drivers here in race number 2.
So that second race here, round 16 of the championship, you are thinking about that points haul. You are thinking about what you can gather up with it. You are thinking about the maximum that you can do here with this car around a dyno test of a circuit. And we always go to say it as we're about 20 seconds away from practice ending and racing going through, qualifying decided by the random spinning wheel that we have. This is about picking up what you can. We always talk about what is the most you can do in a situation, and sometimes it's about getting yourself as many points as you can by the malaise of others rather than by overdriving it yourself. So let's take a little look over at what they've got with the hour about to hit the clock. So on pole position, it is going to be Taylor Lane who will have the control of the field as things set. So there'll be Tommy Vettel alongside for company on that front row, as Matthias Pirhinen and Jesse Payne-Wilkins will hold row 2. The couple of sim sticker drivers stay together, Adam Tompkins and Arthur Thurtle, which will mean that Aidan Carter will go from 7th, and Jack Osborne there with the spooky Halloween-inspired atomic livery in P8, just a few days away from Halloween. Daniel McCauley and Ben Altria, 9th and 10th. What they have to do against each other with Anders Mira and Adam Watson on row 6. Harrison Crowther will have William Guthrie for company with Michael Ebdocker and Ross McFarlane. They're the 2 WSR cars on row 8. The 2 altitude frame cars on row 9. Dennis Grabowski and James Boomey. That leaves Alexander Davidson in 19th. Joe Coffin given the graveyard position of 20th, as Håkon Ida Lindmo and Benjamin Gregory have row 11. It's then Brian Loynes in 23rd and Jacques Seaver in 24th. Ben Bennyworth and Chris Chatterton on row 13, with Howard Hassan and John Roberts on row 14. It's then Adam Hedgecock and Phil Samways, who has a lot of work to do here tonight, with Tom Griffiths, Paul Smith, Colin Sansom, Drew Fletcher, and then Dickie Simnor having to go from the back of this field. They've already launched themselves off behind the iRacing BMW safety car, but this will be a trial by fire for the likes of Taylor Lane at the front. He knows how quick Tommy Fast is, Tommy Vettel alongside him, and he's got the fin as well of Matthias Pirhinen, who will be wanting to gallivant away in the early goings.
Well, we got a little bit of developing news. We'll have a full grid sans Ben Gregory. His sim crashed on him, so the driver who's set to roll off 22nd will not be taking the start.
That will really suck for Ben Gregory. He's someone who loves getting this racing. He's going to be in just in the nick of time to start the car from pit lane by the looks of it. So he'll be looking to try and get up to speed as quickly as possible. Nomad with control. Big pinch over by Tommy Fast. Tommy Vettel's going to want to try and get a good launch, and Matthias Pirhinen's there as well. Green flag drops. Pirhinen gets a really good predicted start there. You're not often that good on the launch. You get it sorted. That takes dedication to go and get it run. But now as they run over towards turn 1, who's going to be a hero on the brakes down into here as they crunch on in? Lane on the outside, no! Contact, Vettel to the race lead. Taylor Lane is dispatched.
I tell you what, I was also watching one of the WSR Mustangs dancing around from left to right there as they're coming into turn one. But what a start again. Thankfully, the argy-bargy didn't happen until turn 2. 3-4 wide at the middle of the pack. Let's see if they all make it through Repsol in one piece. So far, so good as we kind of hold our breath around turn 4.
Bit of 3 wide in the middle. Ben Ultra is in there. 4 wide almost. They go through. One car's going to go off. It's one of the frame cars. Adam Watson spin. Oh, just about held together. That could have been disastrous out there. James Boomey in the middle with Davidson. They spin behind with Drama. 3 bits of contact. Both Nomad cars have been caught up in it and thwack. Into the middle of that then goes Dramas for the likes of Chris Chatterton and Adam Hedgecock.
Yeah, of course, you know, you see the drivers who really don't need the mayhem. They're stuck in the middle with all these drivers having some sort of issue with everybody just going sideways here these past couple of corners.
Yeah, and Aiden Carter making good progress, puts him up to 3rd. Vettel leads, Tompkins 2nd, Aiden Carter now in 3rd, Jesse Payne-Wilkins 4th, and Jack Osborne in 5th. Great start by Anders Mira. He's in P6 out there at the moment as Altria side by side with Matthias Peternen, who's really dropped in that opening lap.
Yep, we mentioned the tires. One car's off. It's one of the WSR esports cars. Not sure which one, as it's a 66 with issues.
Oh, that's not good to see. That's Michael Evdoka. Oh, bang! Grabowski hard into the wall on the main straight. That was a big pile-up between them. He was getting involved in a very sketchy moment out there on track. He was with Michael Evdoka. He was with Ben Ultra. He was trying to push the jump, and it was a case of I'll move across and try and lean, and everybody scattered, including James Boomey.
Yeah, no, it's just lots of mayhem, calamity. I think they held it in for that first lap of this race as we watch one of the altitude-free McLaren just closing in on traffic here, but everybody kind of starting to get in a single file. Couple of battles there in the middle of the race, in the middle of the track, but nonetheless, everybody's starting to calm as looks like one of the Porsches went a little wide there.
And the car that went off earlier on, that WSR car, was Alexander Davidson. That was contact with Adam Watson, who overcooked in the corner, and there was Grabowski up again. Oh my goodness! One car almost going over the top of him. There, that would have been one of the atomic cars. That might have been Simnor there, who would have jumped over the top then through that section. Goodness gracious me. So the mistake there, contact with Howard Hassan, and then into play goes Simnor, who has to do everything to try and avoid it as he effectively tries to jump off. Got another car off the road then. That's Harrison Crowther.
So the pros are already getting in some problems here, but I've got to say this. We saw that video earlier. Carter closing in on Tompkins. Look at that. So Carter's trying to prove us all wrong here and try and get up and race with the pros, as we mentioned between the two races that Carter had, you know, off and on, but nonetheless, a great start to the races. Cars that were damaged are starting to come off of pit road or slowly make their way around the circuit. Behind Carter is Jesse Payne-Wilkins, a little bit further away, but man, the start of this race, I wonder if cold tires are having to play or just the helmet's on too tight.
Well, I think it's a little bit of A and a little bit of B out there for many of them. This is a tough start to the race. Benjamin Gregory has let everyone through his lap traffic, but you talk about it being an hour. You can't win this race in 5 minutes, but we have seen many a driver go out there and lose it. Alexander Davidson back to where he started in 19th. By comparison, James Boomey in 12th. 6 cars the difference, and 4 seconds, and there goes Carter. He goes around, and so too does Tommy Vettel. The race leader, Adam Tompkins, now leads.
What is going on? Are we seeing is there like banana peels we're missing here? Because with Tompkins in the lead, so you look at this, your top 3. You've got a pro, an AM, and a pro-am. 1, 2, 3 as the drivers are still battling tight for position.
Oh, there you go.
Turn number 10, we got a spinner.
Osborne goes the wrong way. Jesse Payne-Wilkins started spinning, and then Anders Mira tried to jump on through and said, no, Racing Lab's still going to have a car inside the top 2. Dan McCauley, what a drive he's having. He's up to 3rd.
And this is what McCauley needed after losing the battle for the lead there in the final laps of not having enough fuel. As we see him, Jesse Payne-Wilkins closing in tight as well on the back of Piernan on the back of Jesse Payne Wilkins, side by side for position from third on back.
Yep, so Jesse now finding out how tough it's going to be as Piernan jumps through, and look at the train behind. Evdoka, Thurtle, Boomy, Altria, McFarlane, Guthrie, Watson, Coffin, all there. Car going a little bit wide then is Arthur Thurtle. He lets James Boomy through unintentionally. As that happens, it's Ben Altria, the AM, who's going to jump to the inside then and get the move done. Arthur Thurtle's got nothing for it then. Ross McFarlane, welcome to the freight train. Could be 3. Wrong side of the road, though, to get the move done. Down at Sayat corner, and a big lunge behind because William Guthrie leaves the door open for Adam Watson to go and make the pass through at Sayat.
See, it can be done going side by side through the stretch without having problems. But, oh, wait, we haven't gone through turn 7 where a lot of our problems have been. Here's the replay. Look at that. 2 cars in just one corner. That's the battle for, that's a lead there. And, yeah, just one tap is all it takes sometimes, especially going into that gravel trap in turn 1.
Yeah, Taylor Lane having the troubles. There's the hit with some of the Prestanda Nomad cars there, and the hits that continue to come on through. So really, it's the Mr. Hedge cars that found themselves wrong place, wrong time. Then Paul Smith just gets the cold tyre buzz as he goes through that section, making life extra difficult. And then bang, into the rear, another Nomad car spin. That one, Håkon Ida Lindmo.
Not a good race weekend for those basically the McLarens, as we see one of the cars just go straight off in turn number 10 when we have no front clip. And then again, we have a lot of stunt driving here, as we see.
Yeah, spins plenty there, and this was the side-by-side with Howard Hassan. Just couldn't get the clearance as if Docker goes through on Jesse Payne Wilkins, or at least tries to, out there as they fight hard through turn 3. And there's Dickie Simnor, Dukes of Hazzard stuff.
I was going to say that, that reminds me of the old stunt shows that they would have in the 50s and the 60s in some of the football stadiums in North America with, the jumps and everything. But, yeah, Harrison Crowther involved in some damage there as well. Just lots of argy-bargy. You got to feel for the race directors where they got to sort all of this through.
Aiden Carter on his own, then into the corner, tips it in the rear, just doesn't want to play ball as he rounds the corner. And then Tommy Vettel on his own in the race lead then just feels the pressure. We'll take a look at this one as he runs through up the hill. This is going to be on the exit, so he's over the curb, and that's what it is. He just gets too much of the curb, and that just sends the car in the air. By the time he gets all 4 contact patches down, suddenly the car's spearing in a different direction. Speaking of spearing in a different direction, Guthrie looking for it, and Altria having to open up his steering, because there goes Adam Watson trying to go through. Look at the fighting here that's going on. You've also got Ross McFarlane trying to go around Jesse Payne Wilkins, and Jesse's not making this one easy out there, but Jesse's going to lose out that one. Altria still on the inside with Adam Watson trying to go the long way around, and still they go to New Holland. Brilliant stuff.
This is absolutely fantastic race. They're still going a little bit off wax the DRS sign, but still now a defense going down the front straightaway. Pushes Guthrie into 2 wheels off into the grass. That was almost Schumacher style. Rubens Barrichello about 10 years ago, but nonetheless still racing for position nice and tight through turn number 1, and Guthrie's going to try and hold it off once again.
That allowed Alexander Davidson to go through and jump by everyone. So Davidson now looking at Ben Altria for 9th place. So critical was that move that has brought him right into the picture once again. And we're looking now at about 15 years now on that incident there, Jeremy. That was 2010. As here comes the move from Davidson straight down the inside of Altria. And the Pro Championship leader looks for the AM Championship hopeful and says, yeah, look, I need to go, mate.
Has it been that long? Oh my lord. God, time flies when you're having fun. But still, Altria doing all he can to try and get around Davidson. We know how tough that's going to be, especially with Davidson having a rough race. He's going to want to set the world on fire as he chases down Jesse Payne Wilkins. And Wilkins kind of wishing that he had a little bit better luck, because Macaulay, the class leader, sitting in 3rd overall with about 4 pro cars between the 2 of them.
Yeah, but those cars, Piernan, Ed Docker, Boomy, McFarlane, you can argue are quicker than Dan McCauley. So for Jesse, he knows that those drivers can be reeled in. It's just a case of pace, and if you've got the case of pace, then you can go cash in at that case of pace and say, I've got a good amount of pace to go and make it happen. And I wonder how many drivers are going to try and get out of the frying pan here, as there goes Tommy Vettel a little bit wide through the final corner, right in the back of shot, as there in the front shot is his teammate there, Anders Mira, in second position, and he's trying to work here with Dan McCauley and this group to catch the likes of Adam Tompkins. On that last lap, he took 0.2 of a second out of him, the gap now to 2.2. It's going to take a little bit of work here to catch Adam at the moment, and there is the quartermaster car of Ben Bennyworth then in 19th place. This is getting a little bit chipper right now with Griffiths, with Osborne, with Simnor in play, and just in front of that, Harrison Crowther are trying to recover. Here comes Tom.
Yeah, no, this is getting very chipper. And of course, now you got to start thinking how many drivers are going to come in for some service a little bit early on who are stuck in traffic. Maybe gamble a little bit because we're starting to get to that window. Oh, look at this pass. Osborne around the outside. That was close.
Just about deep in, and there's contact behind. That's going to bring dramas in. It looks like Aiden Carter ended up pointing the wrong way with Howard Hassan, who tried to go for that gap in the middle. I think Carter was too late to cover off the line on the inside. Now up the hill comes the little look then as they try and figure this one out through Campster corner. Bennyworth, watch out, because Jack Osborne's going to look for a way through. Dickie Simnor wisely lifting out a bit behind. There comes the launch down through the inside and working for that exit. Got it.
Yeah, that's just, rough race for Carter, involved in yet another spin, but nonetheless, look at this battle here for, again, Osborne still within some sort of battle with Simnor also as well. I'm surprised that with the jump that he took, that car is still able to drive straight without any issues.
It is a very tough day for many, and Carter, you can see, just too late to close the door. Howard Hassan there as an AM will always go for that sort of gap that is presented, just hugging the inside line. Simnor gets the overlaunch then and moves on through. Davidson up to 8th as well. He's through on Jesse Payne-Wilkins, 2 seconds to catch to Ross McFarlane. But this is going to get a little bit interesting now in this race, as it will get a chance to settle down at the front. Only pros and AMs in the top 10, no pro-AMs.
Yeah, you've got to go back to 12th with William Guthrie as the leading pro-am, and Tommy Vettel and Phil Samways might be in a battle here in spite of Samways being about 4 seconds behind. But Thurtle, Coffin, and Vettel also locked in nose to tail line astern through position. But very weird to see just pros and AMs and no pro-AMs in the top 10. But thus, this has been the story of this race, of how crazy everything has been, as we see a replay with Benjamin Gregory. Go out. That's going to be a back adjustment, so somebody's chiropractor could be getting paid quite well.
Yeah, that hurts when you go over that. You're lucky in sim that you don't feel that with the car hitting the floor, and the floor often with the chassis cracks when you hit a curb like that so aggressively. Getting busier nearer the front of this field as we focus on Adam Watson and William Guthrie here. 11th and 12th places. Watson trying to run away, but right now I'm looking at Michael Evdoka. He's got a great run here to try and get this pass on Matthias Pirhanen. We'll have to go to the outside to make it happen. James Boomy's going to try and throw one down the inside. They all scout and cover everyone else, and this is what happens when you get the top drivers in the race out there trying to work against each other. They know what everyone's skills are. You got to go and throw it. Optimistic from James Boomy right now, but he knows he's driving with a notice. That notice is, I've only got 2 positions over Alexander Davidson. I've got a motor.
Altitude WSR, that's 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Boomy is trying to do all he can to get inside the head of Evdoka, as Evdoka is trying to get around Pirhanen for that 4th spot. 0.2 of a second separate them, a little bit of a gap, and then Boomy has to worry about McFarlane. McFarlane has been quick all race long, but can he try and get around Boomy and help out his team to try and get that lead a little bit further? As Ben Ultra falling way through the...
Ultra's gone around at Verth, turn 7 on his own, and only now picks the power up to get going again. So a critical spin in the AM category championship with Macaulay in 3rd. Ben Ultra is now behind Drew Fletcher in 19. Here comes Tommy Vettel to the inside. He's going to look to try and get that move done. Then on the likes of those around, and is just going to get it sorted on Joe Coffin.
Yeah, Coffin just says, you know what, just better that I let you by here. Here is that spin we talked about. Looks like just bit a little bit too much curve, Altria did. And, almost got taken out there. Thankfully, was able to hold on to the brakes a little bit too late, but able to hold on to them.
Yeah, you just got to be a little bit alert to it. Boomy throws another one down the inside and has to lift and yield because Docker just turns for the corner as if no one's there anyway. And so that brings Ross McFarlane into play. Very tough when you got the WSR cars all around because this is what you've got. Ross McFarlane, touring car experience in the sim. Michael Docker, touring car experience in the sim. James Boomy right now finds himself stuck in a very, very strong sandwich right now. And you would look around at each and every driver. They know how to race wheel to wheel. They are the most opportunistic drivers. It's like having a pair of jackals in front and behind.
Yes, and they've raced each other so much this season that they know each other's quirks and knows how the other's going to race. So they're not worried being that close to one another. Now, if somebody near the back that got shifted through the invert, that's a different story. But still, these guys know each other. Yeah. Oh, look at that. We've got a problem with Piernan.
Slowdown penalty, has to serve it, and critically finishes the serve just in front of Alexander Davidson, but it's brought him onto that group. So promote up, Docker, Boomy and McFarlane. They'll now eye up Dan Macaulay, Anders Mira and Adam Tompkins here as your leading 3 at the moment, split by 2.1 seconds each. Mira is slowly reeling in Adam Tompkins. That gap now down to 1.5 seconds.
Well, Mira's finally found the light that they needed to really make that BMW sing just a little bit as Tompkins flashing his lights, trying to get around some slower traffic. But Macaulay, I think, might be within striking distance of Mira as well. In spite of watching this Boomy McFarlane battle here through 1 and 2, that's for a 5th overall, 4th in class.
So your first taker is in the lane right now, and in that lane it's Jack Osborne who is making that call to say, look, this is my first pit stop and only pit stop of the race. I'm doing it early at about 17.5 minutes, and I'm going to try and do the long game, the reverse, which is put a tiny bit of fuel in at the stop and then just work with what you've got. Getting busy around Tom Griffiths here, Phil Samways and co watching it. Samways with a hefty defense. They run through with Griffiths, Fletcher, Ultra the AM, and there goes Dickie Simnor diving on through. So it's going to stay busy here as they head to Sayat.
Yeah, it's going to stay busy, and who's going to go pit? Oh, a little bit of a rub there as the Mercedes Simnor goes wide after getting touched. Ultra is going to go up 1 as well, so Simnor's going to lose 2-3 spots, but Simnor's going to try and get around Ultra as they're dancing around for position.
Ultra threw that car in at Verth Corner. Drew Fletcher really had to look out there going through that section. Up over Campton they go. Look at the damage there on Phil Samways' front. He is trying to do what he can to hold it. Griffiths commands the corner and takes it 2 deep there from Drew Fletcher. Ben Ultra snipes one.
Yeah, Samways will probably have to get that fixed by the time he gets in for his compulsory pit stop, as now Samways has to hold off the likes of Ultra and Fletcher here. Oh, Simnor trying to go around the inside of Fletcher. He's going to get that 19th spot for the time being. Man, he's going to hold on to as he shuts the door through turn 10, but he's going to go into the pits.
Yeah, good decision by Dickie Simnor. Realises he's getting held up here, so he's going to try and hit pit lane. It's a long pit lane here in Barcelona. It runs through that entire run, and you've got to be aggressive to it. Group continues here nearer the front, and I see Matthias Pierhinen right now doing a wonderful job of making life tough for Alexander Davidson. He can't quite find an angle. He's just picked it up in the back of shot then to try and go through, and Pierhinen has to let him go. There's the side-by-side. Troubles for Dan Macaulay. There goes 1, there goes 2, there goes 3. That is all down to just getting no drive off the exit of the corner, maybe even a slowdown.
Yeah, it could have been a slowdown with as much as he is lost, and now he's got to worry about the likes of Alexander Davidson and Matthias Pierhinen Davidson, he got a head of steam trying after Barron basically held him off for quite some time, but still lots of racing left. McCauley, though, with a decent gap to Jesse Payne-Wilkins. We'll call it about 4 seconds separating the two, with two pro drivers between the two of them for the AM category lead. William Guthrie finally getting into the top 10, though, via pit stops.
We know how quick Adam Tompkins can be out there. He has been lightning fast in places. He was caught in penalty purgatory, which you can sometimes do in this series, and he's managed to crawl out of it. He's got a sailing boat over the River Styx, and now he realizes he's back to where he needs to be as he tries to climb himself away from Anders Mira at the front of this field. 1/3 of this race chalked up on the books. They're Docker, Boomy, McFarlane, McCauley, Davidson, Pearson. This wonderful train from 3rd all the way to 8th, and Michael Docker given just one word at this moment here with James Boomy behind: just go chase the next car in front of you. If you can overtake the next car in front of you, you don't have to worry about that quick guy behind.
Yeah, definitely. Samways is into the pits himself, so he's answered the call. Going to be interesting to see when this lead group decides they want to come into the pits. Here comes Jesse Payne-Wilkins trying to hold off Adam Watson. Arthur Thurtle not too far away either, so lots of great battles here as teammates working neck and neck around the track. Paul Smith now into the pits as well.
Yep, so Paul Smith making a stop. I tell you what, Jeremy, this is the best I've seen Jesse Payne-Wilkins drive.
Yeah, no, Jesse Payne, this is the race that Jesse Payne-Wilkins has needed. Second in AM, top 10. And like I said, even though this is because you had a couple of fast cars go into the pits, this is absolutely fantastic. And really, it's basically confirming that, you know what, I've had some bad luck and I can drive it. That's what a driver needs, and I think it's going to work good throughout the rest of the season.
One good drive will make up about a season for many out there. And someone like Jesse Payne-Wilkins, I'd ignore -6 on the day so far. We know he's not got the pace of the Ed Dockers and Boomies and Davidsons and McFarlanes of the world, but it's about how he has kept himself still within 10 seconds of the race lead at this point of the race. That's what's been brilliant, the way he's held himself with William Guthrie. He's got Watson behind him and Arthur Thurtle and Tommy Vettel trying to work a way back through. But this is brilliant stuff this week here from Jesse Payne-Wilkins. That is going to be critical as I see Drew Fletcher dropping down the order.
Well, Jake, too, also, you take a look at the lap times that Payne-Wilkins has run. Its fastest lap time is up there with the leaders. And even right now, he's running really close to what the top 10 are, as we see a spinner and a tower. That's Drew Fletcher. Well, Fletcher flashing just a little bit as Taylor Lane, who had early problems, our early leader, into the pit. So Lane probably going to get some sort of damage repairs. Davidson, once again, all over the back of McCauley. Heavy into turn number 7. McCauley is rides those rumble strips, gets over the sausage curbs, able to get there without damage, but now the blood is in the water for Davidson as he smells it and wants to get around McCauley.
And it's all the WSR cars that take that extended move over to the left to avoid the anti-cut curve. So whatever's going on with their setup of their Mustangs out there, Jeremy, obviously they're trying to run those cars as low as possible to give them as much of an advantage. So they're trying to avoid the curves through that section to avoid as much disruption as possible.
And you know what? I didn't think of that because, yeah, looking at the cars, it does look like those WSR cars are just a wee bit lower. And, yeah, if you run those curbs, they're not as aggressive as some curbs that we see on the circuit, but they're aggressive enough to where they will upset the bottom of those Mustangs, because you saw there between 13 and 14, you know, Davidson was running those rumble strips a little bit, but you saw sparks come out from under the car.
And part of that is iRacing's curb updates that they've done, Jeremy, and it's the fact that a lot of these curbs here, those anti-cut curbs, they're not smooth and rounded like Sleeping Policeman. They are jutted and angular in many places.
And, of course, we also saw what happens when you hit them the wrong way. You will launch, and you will get a call from the Spanish airport authorities on why did you not tell us that you were taking off somewhere. Here's Howard Hassan. Ahead of him is Ben Pennyworth in the 96. He's still close enough to make something happen. A little bit of a wiggle going into turn 1, but no harm, no foul. He's able to catch up to that Porsche. Hassan is as 0.2 of a second separate those two drivers through the long turn 3. But that Porsche starting to wash out a little bit as that gives Hassan a chance to get on the inside. Will he hit the brakes just a little bit later? No, he's not, as Bennyworth shuts the door on him.
Well, Howard here is trying to find any opportunity to get through. Ben Bennyworth's covering off nicely, middle of the road on the defence, working in towards Sayat corner, and off the exit again. It's about trying to get as much drive as possible there. That's good enough. That works. So you've covered off and staved that. It's a bit deep, though, from Howard Hassan into turn 7. That's going to really cost the run up to Kamsa at turn number 9. So that's going to keep life in trouble. Speaking of trouble, Anders Mira, watch out, because Michael M. Docker is going to look to try and find this move for position. Dan McCauley has lost out on the last lap or two now to the likes of Alexander Davidson, and the move done up over the top at Lakaitsa, turn 10. There goes M. Docker straight down the inside. Perfect block pass as we got one into the pits, and that is Matthias Pirinen.
Yeah, Pirinen, the first one to go, answer the call. He's on the jacks. So we'll see how long it takes Pirinen to get out, and that's going to determine who else is also going to come in and take their compulsory pit stop. Myra trying to get back into that second place around Avdaka. Of course, Myra also has to deal with James Boomey here as he is closed in on that third place battle.
Yeah, so with James Boomey there, he's going to want to jump up quickly. He doesn't want Ross McFarlane. He doesn't want Alexander Davidson. He just wants a smooth, easy ride, and all of these drivers are out there trying to chase down at the top. Mira with a really good run out of the corner. James Boomey will take a look at him here as he's working here in that frame hoodie out there at the moment, and notice how he doesn't want anything on his forearms there in terms of the way he's trying to get that sorted. He's got the racing gloves there for frame, but he's got the hoodie sleeves rolled up. He wants to make sure there is no interference with the way he drives.
Well, no surprise here. Also, we talked about earlier on how close he is in terms of closeness in the cockpit. I would imagine that the heat from the computer really not helping things much, and that's why that window is cracked open on a cool fall, autumn night, I should say, in the UK. Oh, a little bit of dust picked up. Here comes Boomey reeling in Mira as he goes to the inside, and that may be another place up for Boomey, and indeed it will be, because Mira, he's going to let him have it for now and set his sights on Michael Avdaka.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fastest driver of all? He'll look, he'll see in the mirror that it is James Boomey who goes by and takes himself through that extra position. Ross McFarlane now will look to try and eye this up, and he'll want to get through pretty quick, but Anders Mira's no slouch here, and the way he's losing those places is a tiny mistake out of one corner that opens up the chance. With these drivers that he's racing around, all it takes is that click, and you go through as he powers his way into turn 5 down there at Sayat, and now it's about picking up this run.
And this is the run that you need, especially going into the pits. You want to make sure that you are quick going in and quick going out. Of course, it's going to be a little bit tougher with the tires right now because the track temperature, it's fallen down to 24 degrees Celsius, 76 degrees Fahrenheit. So the track is getting colder out there. So what you had in that first couple of laps is going to be just a little bit different. It's Hassan is in the pits right now.
Yep, so 25.4 seconds stop there for the Welshman. That will give him a chance to get back out and racing again and try and make as many places as possible here on the cusp of halfway in this one. And Adam Tompkins sees that gap absolutely shredded down by Michael M. Docker. It was 1.7. It's now down to 1.
Yeah, that did not take long for Avdaka to close in on Tompkins. Of course, 0.6 of a second behind is also Boomey. So I think once Avdaka catches Tompkins, Jake, we're going to see Boomey also come into play here as we see McFarlane go around Mira. He gets it, moved McFarlane up to 4th place.
Yeah, and now Alexander Davidson will be looking at it here through Renault corner, turn 3, long right and it almost is a case of, can you open that steering as much as you can? The answer is yes, and then you can attack here towards turn 4, Repsol corner. If you overcook it in, it's okay. You can take the outside, a little bit of a wider line, but you can carry more corner speed through the middle, and that will certainly help you out in terms of where you're able to go. And Davidson sat right down underneath, needs a good run off the exit, and he's going to get it here out of 5, so he'll have the inside into 7. Look how wise that is by Anders Mira. Immediately lifts out of it, wants nothing of the title fight.
Oh, that was a fantastic pass. Of course, Mira had a couple of good races here in the first part of the season. Was kind of locked in, but then again, you've got Boomy, McFarlane, and Davidson.
Jesse Payne-Wilkins has had contact. Adam Watson was diving down the inside, and the pair of them go for a slide. So that's really tough for them. So you can see that he's left the door half ajar, and Adam Watson's gone throwing it down the inside, and Jesse Payne-Wilkins just ends up with absolutely nothing except an under tray full of gravel.
Yeah, you definitely don't want that with about 29 minutes left to go, and yeah, just nowhere to go as you leave the door open just a little bit, and someone's going to definitely take advantage as Adam Hedgecock is into the pits. I'm surprised none of the front runners who are stuck in traffic have decided to pit. We just had one, but let's see what happens as we've got a flasher. McCauley having some flashing issues.
Yeah, well, Daniel McCauley is doing well to hold on to this group. He's got 5 seconds over William Guthrie, and Jesse Payne-Wilkins is now well down the order here in 12th place at 17 seconds adrift, so he's got a 15-second lead in category. Tompkins now is going to be looking at this race lead. How long can he hold on to it here? Because there is Evdoka. He's going to want every way to go through. Boomy's there, McFarlane, Davidson, Mira, McCauley, they're all there. I'd argue right now, you've got 7 drivers who can go win this race.
Yeah, this is probably the best that we have seen these drivers all season long, and really, you could you could pick one of them out of the lineup, but they may or may not be there. Just give me a dartboard, put all the names on there, and I'm going to throw it and find out who I think is going to be my pick, because it is just anybody's race here as Paul Smith up ahead. He'll get out of the way, but still a line of 7 cars deep.
I wouldn't want to be Paul Smith right now, seeing that slew of cars wanting to try and lap you. You know you just got to hold your place, right time, and hold yourself steady. And this is where you look around and go, look at the names who are trying to race this one out front, and you will be looking every lap at who dives down to the right and says they're going to make that call. And I would look around at all of them. They're trying to go as late as they can. Boomy picks up a little bit of gravel off of the exit. That will temper his run a bit, but Adam Tompkins has the clearance needed here, and he's picking the toe up there from Paul Smith. So that's huge for Adam. That gives him another lap.
Gives him another lap, but also one has to wonder if Tompkins has a little bit of team orders. He flashes his lights at Smith coming around turn number 3, but still, could there be team orders between Evdoka and Tompkins and Boomy?
Yeah, so Paul very wisely backs off of it, allows 7 to go by, and then jumps on to the end of the train. Evdoka then knows that he can make the pass cleanly on circuit. He doesn't need a pick to make it happen, but sits down there through Sayat corner. Very aggressive there off the exit from Adam Tompkins. Gets a good launch, gets an extra half a car length there, and now as you start climbing up the hill, that little house there up on the top has the Easter egg picture of the likes of Dale Earnhardt Jr. Out there at the moment with one of the iRacing members of staff. So if you can find that, there's one at every single racetrack. So there's a little bit of can you find it for you. But Adam Tompkins doing a great job on the way that he's driving about. He's just putting the car in all the right places. He's hitting his marks at the time where the pressure point hits the most.
Yeah, it reminds me of any sort of GC race where you have, your leader sitting there 3rd, 4th place, and there's the pick there who's in the lead to try and either A, slow things down, or B, make life difficult for the other riders. So no surprise here that we're seeing this happen. Let's see if Evdoka could get close enough to make anything happen. I don't think he will unless he decides to throw it into turn number 1, and he's just gonna take a look, not gonna do anything yet, but still plenty of other opportunities opportunity to make it happen with 26 minutes left to go.
I'm looking at Matthias Pihanen's lap times. He's just done a 1:40.7 on that last lap. Tompkins, by comparison, a 40.6. So he's very comparable with the leaders. And if Adam Tompkins plays a hold-up game enough, if he gets busy with them Docker and Boomy and McFarlane, this might be the case that the early pitter gets the worm.
Well, let's see who decides to get frustrated enough to just pit, because these 7 cars are going to have to answer the call here any minute now. Oh, a little bit of slide by Tompkins coming out of turn number 5. Could that give Abdaka a chance to make a run going out of turn number 9? We'll see as the cars start to go uphill, a little bit of a bounce, and once again, Abdaka about a quarter of a second behind Tompkins.
Well, it's a good run needed here as they pass the DRS marker boards. They don't have that in this series with these types of cars, but Evdoka a lift and coast as he goes into Lekaitsa at turn 10. Knew he wasn't going to be close enough to get alongside there, Jeremy, so critically saved a tiny morsel of fuel, realising I'm going to have a go at a different place like turn 1.
I'm interested to see if it's going to be a chance of one goes, the rest of them go today. We haven't seen that yet this season. We've seen, a handful go into the pits at one time as everybody's still staying in.
Oh, that's the
little wide by Abdaka! Oh, that's going to get Boomy a chance to get into second place. So that's not what he needed. However, McFarlane's also going to make the pass. So Abdaka's going to lose at least 2 positions, maybe a third if Davidson decides to go around the inside. He's going to.
He's going to dive down the inside, and Docker wisely pulls out of the way and lets the championship leader through, his own teammate. One small mistake, 3 places gone, and Michael F. Docker's the one to crack, not Adam Tompkins.
Wow, who would have seen that? Did he miss the apex or what? Because now it's altitude 1-2 as Tompkins leads Boomy by about a half second. So, of course, this is not the time for Tompkins to back up and give Boomy the spot, because if he does, that's going to open the door to 3 WSR Mustangs. So he'll go all the way back to about 5th place.
I think now would be a great time to pit if you're WSR. You send one of them in and you use that as a search party to try and get the launch against the others out there. I think that's where you're starting to sit. Adam Tompkins knows that he's in a very particular position, and James Boomy's going to want to try and get through as quickly as he can. Closes right up underneath there, the rear spoiler. Moving through Lekaitsa at turn 10. Benjamin Gregory hitting pit lane, and a little bit of smoke there coming up there because they head to Bank Sabadell. Turn number 12 out there, or turn 11, sorry, on track. 12 is Europe car. 13 is going to be the next corner that they battle with, and for the moment they all stay out again. Everybody is in line and trying to figure out what they've got. Now here comes the run for James Boomy. This one is for the race lead, and Ross McFarlane I don't think is going to be able to cover this one and follow it. There goes Adam Tompkins on the left, James Boomy on the right, which is left of screen, and late as you like goes the throw down the inside from Ross McFarlane. He gets Doran spins, he's in the fence.
That is not what McFarlane needed. Talk about a change of story as McFarlane falls all the way back to 8th place. He might lose. No, he won't lose 9th because there's Paul Smith wondering, well, how did you get there? But regardless, 0.8 of a second now separate Boomy from Tompkins as Davidson's knocking on the door of 2nd place. Here's
oh my goodness! Wow, I thought they were going to start spinning around here, and Davidson is through. Another look at this. So Tompkins has got to do something and shut the door. Ross McFarlane's over the anti-cut curb trying to get that done. He's on 2 wheels trying to make the pass. He's always unsettled as he goes in. That's a racing incident.
Definitely a racing incident. 4 wheels better than 2 there as we see Evdoka looking out the trying to close in on Tompkins after Tompkins and Davidson made a mistake. But really, the big winner here is James Boomy. As he closes in, Evdoka tries and makes a little bit of a nudge through turn 10, but is not able to get into that 3rd spot. So mayhem has followed us from the early days of the race. Tompkins with a wiggle.
A mistake, and Anders Mira is going to now try and pounce on through with that then, and there's the clearance needed. It was starting to get chipper, and now we're going to see the gift away from Ben Gregory. The lap traffic in front, that's going to make life very difficult through here, and Drew Fletcher in the barriers with meatball required repairs.
surprised that that's the first incident flag that we have seen all race long with all the mayhem and calamity. That'll do it.
So Ross McFarlane hits pit lane, and no surprises there, looking to get his service sorted. So you're looking around and seeing what you need to do out there in this. You get one fast repair, so it's not the end of the world. And now we'll be looking to try and go through Joe Coffin, also in the pits.
What WSR, they've lost that. They thought they lost the lucky horseshoe, but they found it because you see drivers with minor incident this race and able to go through as the lots of battles here. Tompkins has fallen from the lead to 5th in just a couple of laps, but really it was job well done as he was able to make sure that his team leader James Boomey has gotten out to lead. Really, that 1.7 seconds means that Tompkins did the best that he could.
I look around at the likes of where Matthias Pirhinen is coming out in all of this, and the answer is behind Ross McFarlane by a couple seconds. So that tells you all you need to know. If McFarlane can have a full spin and is a couple seconds down the order, then that's not the pace necessary to go and make this work. Boomy is driving absolutely resolutely. 1.8 now, the gap over Alexander Davidson. He is pulling a margin that he needs at this stage, knowing that if Docker can't hold, that Myra can't hold, that Adam Tompkins then is going to dive into the pits. He has done a wonderful job out there, has Adam, pulling the race into James Boomey's favour.
No, he really has, as Tompkins, real job well done. Let's just say that much, as he has played defense most of the race and given Boomey the advantage that he really needed, as we're watching Mira closing in on Abdaka, but holding off Macaulay, as now the top 5, they finally have spread out to a good amount of breathing room. Almost 10 seconds also between Guthrie and Thurtle for that 6th place.
So with that, Tompkins leaves the pits and will continue on, but you're seeing the gaps now, and it's only taken a couple laps of it. They have really stretched open here as they've tried to work through. Tommy Vedel in the pits as well now from Pro-Am. William Guthrie up there in 6th. Tom Griffiths having a good day as well at the moment here in Pro-Am. He's kept it out of trouble here in this run. 18 minutes left. I think everyone's going to come in at exactly the same time, and I would not be surprised to see a short fill from Alexander Davidson to get himself positioned. As you can see, the desperate moves needed through. The likes of Denis Grabowski, for example, needing to get by Joe Coffin. He gets through that one then for 18th place.
Talk about what might have been as Grabowski way down the order, not what he needed. Same goes for Aiden Carter, as they've had nothing but problems as well. Grabowski in 18th spot, but a minute behind the rest of the field. So it's interesting that, we saw some of our front runners run into problems early on in this race. Here's your leader, James Boomey. He's got to answer the call to pit here shortly. I think your leaders, they will all come in together, and Pit Mira is one of those who's going to pit. Let's see how short his fill is.
Anders Mira was absolutely pixel perfect there on his markers going into the pits there. He will change his Pirelli tyres, and he will now look to get a bit of fuel in the car to get himself home. He will look at Harrison Crowther through. He's now off the jack and immediately gone. So that tells you all you need to know on how quick he's going. Altria goes through, Griffiths goes through, and he is going to be a mile clear of Tompkins and McFarlane.
Yeah, that helps to have that big gap, and now we get to see how quick these cars are coming off the pit road in anger. Really haven't had a chance to see those lap times, as Boomey, would not be surprised to see him come into the pits within the next lap with 17 minutes left to go. Trying to look down the order to see if there's any good battles, but everybody's kind of sorted themselves out. There's one right there between Bennyworth and Grabowski, as Grabowski moves his way into 16th place overall. Says, thank you very much, Bennyworth.
That's 2 in 2 laps for Denis Grabowski there. He'll take that and knows that he's got pace to go and burn, and he will be driving angry at the moment to get back in after what was a nightmare opening couple of laps to his race in the Aston Martin. Nothing he could do about that. So that's going to be tough. And again, staying out goes Boomy and Davidson. So they both continue on with their warpath at the moment. Evdoka third, and in comes the AM leader, Dan McCauley, followed by the Pro-Am leader, William Guthrie.
Well, no surprise there that McCauley is coming into the pits. Now, how long does he stay in there? Because he's a good gap back to Ben Altria as we see that Mustang of McCauley coming to a stop. Guthrie also comes to a stop as well. Thurtle able to work his way up to fourth place as the laps wind down. Well, it's a question of when will your top four all pit? Boomy and Davidson, 1.5 seconds separates them. Oh, nice little wiggle as that's 13.4 seconds in the pit for Guthrie.
And McCauley's going to come out just behind Anders Mira there, and Guthrie, I think, is going to jump Adam Tompkins in the stop as he hits the brakes. He does. Wow. William Guthrie, what a stop that is.
That was absolutely fantastic as Altria
Cold tires.
13.
Cold tyres there for Guthrie, and through goes Tompkins without too much of a thought. And now look behind here, Jeremy, it's Ross McFarlane.
Yeah, McFarlane, who's had a rough race, knocking on the door of that eighth spot as we take a look on board. He gets around the outside, gonna get that eighth spot, now sets his sights on Tompkins, something he wasn't able to do earlier on.
Only your top three now there. Boomy, Davidson, and Docker. In comes one. In comes two. Oh, they're trying to pass cars in the pit. Colin Sansom had to get out of the way of both of them. That would have scared, and it will happen again. There behind for a Docker who just whistles on by. Colin Sansom in the lane. The levels they have to go to try and make these pit stops. This is now going to be a case of who comes out where at the moment. Thurtle should come into the pits from fourth. There's the replay, and look at that. That's what you have to do to dive in the pits on what is normally one wide.
Well, it's your fair game all the way till you get to that line. Boomy will come out ahead of Davidson with Evdoka sitting in third place. Thurtle's in the pits as well, so great pit stops now. Boomy has to go full throttle to keep Davidson behind him with 14 minutes left to go.
And look at what the gap is between the likes of Adam Tompkins and Dan McCauley. That's for a top five that's side by side as Boomy keeps. He's about 1.2 second margin. Straight down the inside goes Tompkins. He gets that one. Ross McFarlane trying to line it up now for P6.
Watch McFarlane knocking on the door of the AM leader around turn number 3. Oh, a little wide McCauley goes, but still able to hold on. Let's see if what happens as McFarlane dives to the inside. You saw the nose step on McCauley, but it's going to be too little, too late. McFarlane has that 6th spot with ease.
Yeah, that move was desperately needed and gives comfort here with 13 minutes to go. A look here from Alexander Davidson's perspective. So he sees the clearance, and he's got it even tougher.
Yeah, he has it tougher, but I'm interested to see the point of view from Evdoka, because that looked like that was a little close to the pit entry line right there. But smart thinking by Boomy, Davidson, and Evdoka to make their way around Sansom without much damage.
And if they even breathed and got that wrong, that would have been a huge hold up in the pits that would have got everybody back in line and position. There is no way that if there is any contact there, that pit lane becomes Austin Powers.
Yeah, it really does, except this time you don't have the Taylor Dunn. And here's the view from Evdoka going into the pit. Of course, you got to be full throttle through the pit entry and across. And, oh, I don't know. That was close. Was it the first line or the second? I think it's the second line there.
Yes, where the yellow cones are, that indicates where you got to hit it. So he just got it on the line, and that's why he's in third right now, 4 seconds off the race lead. 1 second the gap at the front. There's McFarlane trying to get by Adam Tompkins for a top 5. And you would bet your bottom dollar right now that Ross McFarlane right now will have bagpipes in the background blaring as he's going to try and march his way by.
Yep, it'll be interesting to see how many more positions he can get. It might be just one. Howard Hassan has finally hit the limit with 11 3/4 left to go in this race. And really, with as hard as everybody's been racing, I'm surprised it took this long to get somebody to get a 17X. As McFarland still on the tire tracks of Adam Tompkins for that 5th spot. So we'll see if McFarland has anything for Tompkins, but Tompkins having the race of his season so far. He's still running close to what everybody else is running in lap times.
I'm looking at William Guthrie's main rival today in the form of Aidan Carter. He's down in 21st. This might be the moment where William Guthrie takes a firm hold of the Pro-Am Championship. We look at Dan McCauley here, who's sitting very well. His main rival, Ben Altria, 16th at the moment. Where's that clip of Nepenthe? 16th! He's there at the moment and doing what he can, but he knows that Dan McCauley's picking up big points here today, and that could be another decisive moment in the championship. But for the moment, Ross McFarlane, if he wants any hope of challenging for the championship overall, he's got to get by Adam Tompkins and get top 5 bare minimum.
And he is too far away to make anything happen. And so 4 is probably his next opportunity to make something happen. But McCauley doesn't have to do too much. Just sit there, try not to lose too many positions, try not to get into anybody's way, and you've got 10 minutes to do it. So it's almost like a Sunday drive for the AM leader right now, as Davidson, I should say McFarland, still too far away as Tompkins is really making him work for that top 5 position.
No, do talk Alexander Davidson. James Boomey had a mistake at turn 1, a little wiggle that costed 0.4 of a second. That gap is now under a second at 0.6, inside the final 10 minutes. If Alexander Davidson does the double, that's big against what James Boomey wants in this championship. James has got to strike back and create parity in this moment, because he knows he will run out of opportunities. Speaking of which, there goes Dan McCauley. So he will now drop himself back down with a little bit more time, a half slide as he went through turn 7 of Verth, and it's cost him 2 spots to Pirhinen and to Guthrie.
And if Boomey wants to stay in this championship, he cannot make any mistakes. Just a little bit of a slide, no harm, no foul on McCauley, maybe some gravel on the racetrack, but nonetheless, Davidson able to gain 0.2 of a second there in that final sector. So let's see if Boomey can keep the gap as big as it is or grow it. Because like I said, if Boomey does not win this race, it's going to be that much harder for him to claim this title that he's led for most of the season.
He knows he's given it to Alexander Davidson. He knows that he gave him a full week when it came to action, and he didn't capitalize on it at Spa in the big result that was there for Ross McFarlane. Critically, the door opened by Howard Hassan, lets them both through without any harm at all the way over to the right-hand side of the circuit, working through Sayat Corner. Off of the exit, they are both hitting their marks, and we have to say it, over the course of today, through an hour and a half's worth of racing, they have been pretty much the yin and yang of each other. They have hit every mark at the same point, the same pace.
And that's been that way most of the season, in spite of last week, which we might as well just call that a wild card race, because we saw rare mistakes out of the 2 drivers. But nonetheless, these 2 have been the class of the field in this series so far this year. Boomey still with a 0.4 of a second lead over Davidson, and really looking up and down the pylon. That's been the battle of the race so far. I would say probably about 4 more laps left out of our leader that he has to be perfect. He cannot drop a wheel wrong, because Davidson will be there to pounce.
Well, these are the water torture hours that you start seeing. Every second feels like 10. Every minute feels like 100 minutes. And every corner goes on for an eternity. And you start feeling the aches and pains in your right foot that's pinned to the floor. Your left foot that has to do the braking. Alexander Davidson closes the gap down to under 0.3 of a second for the first time, and really starts ratcheting up the pressure cooker at this moment. He knows he's got to try and find this move. He might have a chance here into turn 4 at 2.25 of a second back, but he's not got the angle.
But here's the thing too, one wrong move and both of those drivers could be out of the race. Even though Evdaka is 5 seconds back, even though Mira is 8 seconds back, One wrong move could cost both of these drivers a race, and Davidson knows it. He's going to try and look to the inside. Not going to make it happen as Boomy is making life difficult for the WSR Mustang.
Well, this is a case of where do you show your hand? Where do you get the move? Up over the Kamsa corner, the most loaded corner on this circuit. And now, after they climb the crest, they head to Lekaitsa. A look to the inside that he's backed out of by Alexander Davidson. Trying to scare in the mirrors, James Boomy, who's not faced by that at the moment. With 6 and 12 on the clock, they now look Davidson to the outside at Bank Sabadell. Not wise, he wants a great run off the exit of here to move through Europe Car and onto that main straight.
The main straight is where it could happen heading into turn number 1. Davidson, though, losing ground through turn number 14. There's something about that corner where it makes him lose ground. So now Boomy can take a deep sigh of relief, knowing that he's lost 0.3 of a second on Davidson this past time by, though Davidson heavy on the brakes going into turn 1. That nose scrapes on the pavement as they work their way into 1 and 2.
You lose all the front downforce when you sit behind another car. It's not as simple as you can just get by. When these corners are so long, dirty air does play a factor even in GT3 spec. More traffic in front of them. That's the gentleman John Roberts that they'll have to try and get by. But for the moment, it's James Boomy who's holding himself steady. 5 minutes 13 left. And this one for all the marbles, it feels like. And this is more than just the race for the win. This is a psychological race for the win. If Davidson goes through, that is a heartbreaker.
Well, for all intents and purposes, this could be the race of the championship right here as Boomy goes just a little bit wider coming off of the turn 8, I should say, as now they go through the uphill. There's that slower traffic going into turn number 10. Boomy looks to the inside again, decides better of it, and still nose to tail around 10.
Trying anything and everything. McCauley fighting Pearson, McFarlane and Tompkins going at it as well for 5th and 6th. But it's all about this championship. It's all about these two at the front looking to set their tempo. And again, James Boomy just not afraid to go over these curves. And he is absolutely reaping the rewards for it. But at 0.3 of a second, Alexander Davidson might have a shot here with 3 laps to go. Boomy looking up in the mirrors, thinking, am I going to have to defend this line heading in towards this opening corner? Not this time. He does into turn 1. Davidson right up underneath.
Under the rear wing, says, how you do, buddy, as they go through turns 1, 2, and 3. Davidson really reeling in Boomy through the long right-handed sweeper. Heading off into turn number 4. We Repsol corner, a wide hairpin. No move yet, but lap traffic will come into play. You can almost fit a meter stick in between the bumpers of your leaders. Looking around the outside is Davidson. He's going to try and make a move through turn number 5. Not going to make it happen.
I wonder if James Boomy's a little bit short on fuel here. He had only 11.5 seconds and he's trying to extend the braking zones into every corner. So if he's looking at that, he had a 7/10 shorter stop. He'll be looking at this going, well, I'm going to be in a little bit of trouble. He'll look at John Roberts. He'll try and follow him as much as he can. Pick up a tiny toe that covers off Lekaitsa. He defends the line as he goes into this next section. Davidson is all over him like a rash right now. This is such a tough moment of the race for James Boomy. And now here comes the chance. Outside line searching at Bank Sabadell. It's 4 straight right-handers. It won't work.
Oh, Boomy with a little bit of a wiggle there coming off of the corner as now they set up for 13 and into 14. Does Boomy get even tighter through 14? He does. He loses Davidson by just a little bit. It's back to 0.3 of a second with 2 laps left to go. It's not what Boomy wanted, but unfortunately he's got to play the cards he's dealt with as he covers off the inside. Here comes Davidson, side by side. He's going to get the outside line and lose it in turn 1.
He's overcooked it. He's got to realize now, does Alex Davidson here, that James Boomy is clutching. He is clutching at straws. Every corner he is in Lyco, and Alexander Davidson just can't find an angle because James Boomy is just planting the car awkwardly in every single corner. So Alex Davidson here has got to play clever because James Boomy right now is trying to hold what he can again to the outside is the look. Path of least resistance then by Boomy. Stamp on it on the exit from Alex Davidson is covered again.
Yeah, he's just taking those inside lines, and Davidson not really covering him the best that he can. He's trying to see if he can go high, wide, and handsome, but each and every time, Boomy is able to defend successfully. Watson with a black flag.
That's the instant limit for him, and that will take him out of top 10 contention. And again on the brakes, this might be a case here as they're heading to a lap and a bit to go, where it's just a case right now, Jeremy, of do I even just try and hold him out for the lap, see if he's got enough?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this works out because Davidson is throwing everything that he can to try and get around Boomy. But again, if Boomy does not end up... Oh, that's a little bit of a jump there. Davidson chances it, hits the anti-curbing, and goes airborne. That may be race over for Davidson.
Well, I wouldn't count that out yet. It's just taking the main opportunity away. Last lap here at Barcelona. And Alexander Davidson here has looked for 3 straight laps to try and find the move on James Boomy. And Boomy has had all the answers for this one at the moment. He knows how tough this race is. This is all or nothing at the moment. And he's playing with a tank that is just begging to run out of fuel at this moment. Out of Renault into Repsol. Boomy's got it covered and scouted. Has he done enough lift and coast to make this happen, or is he going to take again that path of least resistance that Davidson is just so good at? Heading to turn 5 again, it's covered. Davidson a little bit further back this time, but that means he can cover through the middle of the corner and attack off the exit just a little bit better. These two are 1 and 2 in race 1, but it was Davidson who picked up the honours, thinking about it at turn 7 at first. Not going to get there, but again, you got to climb up Kamsa here for turn 9, and there might be some slipstream left. This is tough, really tough. Davidson now finding out that this is as far back as he goes, and he's dropping back, and the knowing smile that is there of James Boomy there to see that Davidson is struggling now, and is falling back enough. James Boomy, I think, may have just out-survived the likes of Alex Davidson. This could be huge, heading through, and might be the best win of his sim racing career to date. The way he's had to fight that. James Boomy, parity restores itself today and says, game on with a title battle. Davidson is second. James Boomy, what a hold and what a watch from him. Look at it for third. Anders Mira going to the line. Evdoka, I think, is held by 100th.
Talk about a close finish. McFarlane crosses the line. William Guthrie's going to win the Pro-Am class. Daniel McCauley, have a day. 8th place overall. Your AM leader by a huge margin. But James Boomy, the relief on his face there as he saw that Davidson just fell back. I tell you what, that was an absolute banger of a race. And if you didn't enjoy this, then I don't know what's wrong with you, and I can't help you.
Well, I would say that hoodie right now is going to be drenched in sweat, and that is one which you'll look back on this season and go, that's a momentum maker in terms of a race. The final few drivers trying to make their way around. They've got the likes there of Håkon Idolindmo trying to chase down Taylor Lane, who was the pole sitter for this race, round 16 of the championship. But oh my goodness, there is a lot to talk about coming out of Barcelona, and the best bit is there are still 6 races left in the calendar. Let's take a look at results. James Boomy 1.1. He has survived today. That is as tough as a race gets. Alexander Davidson threw everything and the kitchen sink and ran out of fuel to go and challenge at the very, very end. Michael Evdoka ends up in third with Anders Mira fourth, and Adam Tompkins rounding out the top five, just 100th between Evdoka and Mira for that podium. Ross McFarlane gets sixth place with William Guthrie seventh, your leading Pro-Am, and Daniel McCauley, your leading Am, in eighth place, both walking towards their titles respectively. Matthias Pirhinen will finish ninth. He lost out to Daniel McCauley in the late stages. Your top 10 then rounded out by Harrison Crowther, Arthur Thurtle and Tommy Vedel there in 12th place, with Dennis Grabowski a recovery to 13th. Ben Altria 14th only will hurt him in terms of his challenge, with Jesse Payne-Wilkins and Tom Griffiths 15th and 16th. Dickie Simnor from the back to 17th will be your biggest mover in the field, a gain of 18 spots, with Joe Coffin, Adam Watson with the penalty, and Aidan Carter making up the top 20. Taylor Lane and Håkon Ida Lindmo, two nomads, 21st and 22nd, with Jacques Eva 23rd, and then the final two on the leading lap, Brian Loynes and Ben Bennyworth. Laps down for John Roberts, Howard Hassan with a penalty, Paul Smith, Adam Hedgecock and Colin Sansom, who had the big scare in the pits. Benjamin Gregory would also be a lap down, 3 for Phil Samways. Drew Fletcher parked for his connection, along with Jack Osborne out 13 laps from the end, and Chris Chatterton done on the early laps of this race. Oh my goodness, we are sat in with some wonderful racing. And this championship right now here, Jeremy, I think this is the best sim racing championship anywhere at the moment between these two. I don't know a single series that has two drivers so similar and yet giving 100% each time. It is legitimately, flip a coin who wins.
Exactly. And even then you may not be right, because these two are just 10/10ths completely the whole entire race. Doesn't matter if it's a 30-minute race or if it's a 2-hour enduro. They are neck and neck, nose to tail the whole time through. This is a fantastic championship. And if you have friends who don't even know about this series, you need to tell them how good it is, because the racing, it doesn't matter where it's at, if it's these guys or somewhere else, is absolutely fantastic.
William Guthrie, well, he can only play the field in front of him, but today all the Pro-Ams just ran into all the troubles, and Guthrie was the only one who kept a clean nose.
Yeah, so that's just absolutely fantastic. But regardless, I think our race winner has finally joined us, and hopefully he's caught his breath like the rest of us.
But, James, 4 laps to go. You've got Alex Davidson breathing down your neck. Talk us through how much you had to fight there in that moment, because not only are you dealing with the championship leader, you're dealing with a fuel tank that's trying to stay empty on you. You've got lift and coast you got to try and do. Just talk us through those final stages.
I mean, I don't know what my mind was going through in those last few laps, to be honest. But basically, I knew that I could. I originally put in like 28 litres on the fuel tank, and then I got into the pits, and Caps was saying to me I could take down 2, but I accidentally clicked 3. So I actually filled a litre less than I should have done. But then the problem was that then my rear tyres were gone. And that was just, it was just absolutely trying to fight Davidson, who's a very good wheel-to-wheel racer, I should say, as well. And trying to manage my rear tyres and my fuel saving was pretty difficult. But I think the thing that made it easier was my knowledge from race 1 that following people is just terrible. So I knew that if I could hold them off until, let's say, sector 2, sector 3, I could actually pull away 3 tenths in the final sector. So, and that's kind of what I was betting on pretty much. So it was a bit of a strategic play. It's not the way I wanted to win it on pure pace, I'll be honest. But yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit further back in that race towards the beginning, because the first 3 or 4 laps, everyone was spinning left, right and centre. It was about just holding your nerve. And then it settles down into a 7-8 car train at the front. How do you work through a train like that, where you've got some very quick drivers in there, some AMs that are proving that they've got pro or pro-am pace, and some pro-ams proving they've got pro pace?
Well, I think the thing is with this track is it's very difficult to follow, but it's very easy to lose quite a lot of time. trying to go for overtakes and stuff like that. So you have to be either incredibly decisive or you have to be very patient and wait for the right moment. Thankfully, you have to be aware of your surroundings, and I was quite aware that if Doka had some pace to get to the front, I was trying to save some fuel, and that kind of worked out like hand in hand, basically. So it's all about calculated risk, really. Is if you can go for a move and not lose about half a second, which is very easy to do around this track, then that's probably the best way of doing it, really. I'd be very strategic.
Circuit Gilles Villeneuve coming up next, street circuit, so the margins are infinitesimally fine when you're going around that place. A championship now that is as close as it can possibly be. Do you think that this race win today is the momentum changer you're looking for, especially after Spa last week?
Well, annoyingly, there's also loads of slowdowns at Gilles Villeneuve, and as you saw today, that could also play into hands. But I feel like I'm very strong around tracks like Gilles Villeneuve and stuff like that as well. The really technical ones require quite fine trail braking and stuff like that. And I think it's going to be going into the last half, like the last quarter of the season now, I should say. It's pure nerves now, basically. And I think it's not only for me, it's also for Davidson as well. So yeah, I think I'm going to bring it, hopefully.
That's all you can do. What a wonderful victory that is. James Boomey there joining us and picking up the job overall here today. Jeremy Scott has taken the walk down virtual pit lane. He's caught up with your winner in the AM category, Dan McCauley.
Well, Dan, first of all, congratulations on the win in the AM category, but nonetheless, what a race, what a 2 races you had today here at Barcelona. I'm sure you're pretty sad, especially with the second race, to kind of have to go to another circuit.
Oh, yeah, that was awesome. I kind of had a bit of a downturn in form the last few races, so tonight really has put a smile and a bit of a spring back in my step, sorry. I prefer these more traditional circuits, plenty of references, just kind of get on with it sort of tracks rather than a bit of Mickey Mouse that we've had recently. So yeah, absolutely buzzing with that tonight. It's been great.
Well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about next race a little bit later on, but still the only AM in the top 10. Let's see. You have to go back to your second closest competitor, who has been Ultria in 14th place. So you had a lot of pros and pro-ams behind you. Regardless, where did the pace come from today? Was it just a lot of practice, or just being there, having leader pace?
I've really struggled to find a setup that gives me what I want from the car recently, and it just clicked this week. I enjoyed the circuit. I'd done a lot of practice. I had a good setup, so that kind of all the stars aligned for tonight, and it was great, mixing it up with the pros. I'm not sure how much of it made it on the broadcast, but me and Matthias had an absolute monumental battle on the last lap. That was pretty incredible. But yeah, just racing with those guys at the front, they sort of drag you along. Once you steer clear of the trouble in the first few laps, as long as you can sort of stay within 5 to 7/10 of the guys in front, they just drag you along and make it a bit easier. So yeah, it's just been an awesome night for me, and I'm glad to have the momentum.
Yeah, no, momentum is always great to have when we're watching kind of some of that battle in slow-mo. Regardless, just absolutely fantastic to see you up there at the front at the end. Next race out, where we fly off to Montreal to the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, street circuit, round a park. How are you excited about that race?
Big fan of Gilles Villeneuve. I hope that I can sort of get the car to feel the same as it did tonight, and I think I should hopefully be in for another successful weekend. We all know Gilles Villeneuve can be a bit of a lottery, making it through the first couple of laps, so hopefully it's pretty clean.
Well, Dan McCauley, your winner in AM. What a fantastic race you had. The only AM in the top 10. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
Well, what a great run from Dan McCauley today, and it's one that will cement him with the AM category. But we were talking about it there, Jeremy, on what comes along in 14 days' time out there, because that will be the likes of the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. So they'll have that chance to say, look, that is going to be where you get the next big battleground in on play. And then, of course, we were expecting it to be the likes of Sonoma, but critically, that might also have a change because it was put in at the start of the schedule that it's Sonoma or a new track that might be released. So it's looking like potentially the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez on the horizon.
That is one of my favorite tracks to watch, especially when it comes to open wheel. So I can't wait to see what these GT3 cars can do amongst that racetrack. And it is the highest elevation racetrack in at least Formula One, might be in the entire motorsports. I think we're going to see that one be a bigger wild card than we saw last time out at Spa.
Yeah, power is going to be big, but the key is they've got one roadblock before that to come in. It is for Dan McCauley today, the championship that he was dreaming of, and now he walks ahead of Ben Altria. You look around today and see that William Guthrie gets himself an almighty scrap going through and saying, look, with no Michael Gray, it's me who's going to get to play and build a massive margin at the top of Pro-Am. From Jake Sperry, from Jeremy Scott, from Hugo Louise, who has been on the cameras for you as part of a RaceSpotTV production. The World GT Championship is all about two at the top. It is a battle of titans slugging it out against each other, and that is a round of 10-9 in no direction at all. It is now down with just 3 racing weeks remaining, with just 3 opportunities or 5 or 6 races to make it work. James Boomey and Alexander Davidson, it's blockbuster. We say salut to Gilles. We'll see you in the next round at Gilles Villeneuve.